Welcome back to another explainer. Okay, today we're tackling what is honestly the ultimate linguistic puzzle for English speakers learning Spanish. We're going to completely decode how to translate the most fundamental verb in any language, the verb to be. I promise, once you see how our source material structures this, it's just going to instantly click for you.
Let's actually start by getting a little philosophical for a second. Ask yourself, how do you define to be? Is your absolute core essence exactly the same as your current temporary state? Like, are you fundamentally a happy person or are you just happy right now? In English, we don't really make a huge distinction there. But setting up this boundary, that is exactly how the Spanish language approaches reality.
So, here's our roadmap. We'll start with the two verbs for to be. Explore ser for essence, tackle estar for location and mood, dive into action with the present progressive, and finally, master your new Spanish reality.
All right, part one, two verbs for to be. Splitting reality in Spanish.
To help us really ground these concepts, we're going to follow a character from the text named Laura. We'll learn all about her as we essentially split reality in two. See, in English, we just kind of lump identity, characteristics, locations, and moods into one giant bucket. You say, I am tall, I am in the kitchen, I am tired. It's all just I am. But Spanish requires you to pause and consciously decide, are you talking about an intrinsic, permanent characteristic, or are you talking about a temporary condition? You literally have to choose your reality.
Moving right along to part two, essence and identity, the verb of permanence.
Okay, here's the absolute foundation, straight from Unit 1, page 6 of our source material. Let's break this down. For the first person, I am, it's yo soy. Plural, we are, is nosotros somos. For the second person, you are, it's tú eres if you're being informal, or usted es formally. In the plural, ustedes son. And for the third person, he or she is, it's él or ella es. And plural, they are, is ellos or ellas son. Memorizing these building blocks is absolutely crucial because they give you your core identity markers.
So when exactly do you use Sarah? Well, our text gives us these super distinct categories to use as mnemonic buckets. You use ser to be somebody, so your core identity or profession. You use it to state where you're from, your origin. You use it to define relationships, like to be something for someone, whether that's a mother or a friend. And finally, you use it to describe being in a certain way, meaning your permanent, intrinsic, physical, or moral characteristics.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates our rules in action. Let's look at Laura. Laura is mi amiga. Laura is my friend. That's a relationship, so we use es. Esti Peru. She is from Peru. That's her origin, her absolute essence, so again, es. Laura es una niña cortés. Laura is a polite girl. Being polite is an intrinsic moral characteristic of hers, so we use ser again. It covers who she is, where she's from, and what kind of person she fundamentally is.
All right, let's shift to part three. ESTR, location and mood. The verb of condition.
Now let's lock in the conjugations for estar. This is from page 8 of the source. If ser is about who you are, estar is all about presence. And notice how the rhythm of the words differs. For the first person I am, it becomes yo estoy. Plural, nosotros estamos. Second person, tú estás, or formally, usted está. Plural, ustedes están. Third person, él or ella está. And plural, ellos or ellas están. So the rhythm is entirely different, right? Estoy, estás, está, estamos, están.
Let's look at our second set of mnemonic anchors. These buckets deal entirely with temporary states and geographic locations. You use estar to express being in a place right now. To be with someone or something currently. To be in a mood, happy, sad, angry. To be in some condition, like sick or tired. And to be at some level. Notice the contrast here? There's absolutely nothing here about a permanent essence. It's all about the right now. Let's bring Laura back in to demonstrate estar in action. Our text notes, Laura nunca está de mal humor. Laura is never in a bad mood. Now, even though it says never, a mood is fundamentally a temporary state of being, so we absolutely must use estar. Then we have Laura está en su casa ahora. Laura is in her house now. Location is heavily tied to estar. She's not going to be in her house forever, but she is there right now.
So, the crucial point is captured perfectly in this side-by-side contrast. On one hand, you have Laura es de Peru. She will always be from Peru. That origin is her permanent essence. On the other hand, Laura está en su casa ahora. She is in her house right now. That is a fleeting, temporary geographic location. Two totally different realities, two completely different verbs.
Which brings us to part 4. Action. The present progressive. Estar plus gerundio.
Okay, here is a massive plot twist from Unit 4. Estar isn't just about where you are or how you feel. We're actually taking the verb estar and giving it a massive power up. It's the magical building block for talking about what you are doing right now in real time. We're moving from simply being in a state to the present progressive tense, the literal engine of active doing.
I want you to treat this literally like a simple math equation. It makes it instantly approachable. Straight from page 27 of the source, here is the formula. Step 1. You need a subject, the sujeto, like who is doing the action. Step 2. You need the verb estar, conjugated perfectly to match that subject. And step 3, you add the gerundio, which is your main action verb modified with a specific ending. 1, 2, 3, bam. Let's briefly clarify that third step. What on earth is a gerundio? Well, the text explains that the Spanish endings ando and yendo are the exact equivalents to the English ing. If your original verb ends in AR, you just chop that off and add ando. So trabajar becomes trabajando, meaning working. If the verb ends in ER or IR, you add yendo. So comer becomes comiendo for eating, and aprender becomes aprendiendo for learning. Let's use Laura's hobby to showcase this formula working perfectly in action. The text says, Laura está leyendo un libro. Here's our formula at work. The subject is Laura. The correctly conjugated estar verb for she is está. And the gerundio for the verb leer, to read, is leyendo. Laura está leyendo. Laura is reading. It's happening right now as we speak.
Let's see how this builds across different subjects. This structure is rapidly adapted right from the text's examples. Just notice the flow across these combinations. Yo estoy comiendo ahora. I am eating now. Tú estás trabajando en la oficina. You are working in the office. Ella está aprendiendo mucho. She is learning a lot. The core structure never changes. You just plug in your subject, match your estar, and drop in your gerundial action. It is a highly versatile, foolproof formula.
And finally, part 5, mastering your Spanish reality, recap and resolution.
Here is your rapid-fire recap, basically the ultimate cheat sheet for your language learning journey. If you're talking about an intrinsic essence, where someone is from or their permanent identity, use ser. If you're talking about where someone is located right now, their mood or a temporary condition, use estar. And if you want to describe an action happening in this exact present moment, use your present progressive formula, subject plus estar plus your gerundio.
I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on today. Think about how profound this grammar rule actually is. If you right now, speaking in English, had to use 2 entirely different verbs to describe yourself, one strictly for your eternal essence and one just for your fleeting temporary states, how would it change the way you view yourself? How would it change how you view the world around you? Language literally shapes reality, and now you have the tools to master your Spanish reality. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.